I still remember the look on Mr. Harlan's face, a mix of fury and disbelief. One moment he was screaming at me, calling me worthless, useless, like I was nothing but a burden. I felt the weight of his words crush me, but I kept my silence. Then, almost as if time slowed down, everything changed. His face drained of color, his eyes wide with shock. He clutched his chest, trembling, gasping for air, like some invisible force had knocked the wind out of him. That's when I saw it, the dawning realization. He finally understood who I really was, but by then, it was too late. The truth was out, and everything he thought he knew shattered in an instant. What he didn't know was how long I'd waited for this moment, and what I was about to do next. My name is Emma, and I'm just an ordinary girl with big dreams but a quiet voice. When I landed my first job at one of the city's most prestigious corporate firms, I thought it was the start of something amazing. The kind of fresh beginning you imagine while lying awake the night before, heart pounding with nervous excitement. I wanted to prove myself, to show that even someone like me, soft-spoken, unassuming, could belong in a place so polished and powerful. The morning of my first day felt like stepping into another world. The sleek glass walls, the chatter of confident voices, the crisp suits, it all dazzled me. But behind that glossy surface lurked something else, something I wasn't prepared for. Mr. Harlan, the CEO, was notorious around the office, a man with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. His reputation for tearing employees down before they even had a chance to stand was well known. I had heard the warnings whispered in hushed tones, but I told myself, I'll be different. I can handle this. I was wrong. From the moment I introduced myself, Mr. Harlan seemed to zero in on me like a hawk spotting prey. In meetings, his mocking smirks and cutting remarks made my hands tremble. "Emma, are you even listening?" he'd sneer when I tried to speak. Tasks he handed me were impossible, deadlines that didn't exist, projects that felt designed to trip me up. What hurt most wasn't just his cruelty, but the silence around me. My colleagues avoided my eyes, quickening their pace when I approached. No one dared to help or defend me. Fear of Mr. Harlan's wrath kept them distant. I was alone in a sea of polished smiles and cold shoulders. But even as the weight of those early days pressed down, a small spark inside me refused to die. The days passed, and the torment only deepened. Mr. Harlan seemed to take a twisted pleasure in breaking me down, piece by piece. In meetings, his voice cut through the room like a whip. "Emma, do you even understand what you're doing, or are you just here as some charity case?" He spat one afternoon, his words echoing in the silent room. Faces around me shifted uncomfortably, but no one dared to speak up. I felt my cheeks burn with humiliation, but I forced myself to stay still, to keep quiet. If I spoke, I feared I'd crumble completely. Another time, when a report I submitted wasn't up to his impossible standards, he slammed his hand on the table and tossed a thick file at me. It hit my desk with a harsh thud, making me jump. "This is garbage, Emma. Maybe you're just not cut out for this world." I stared at the papers, my hands trembling, swallowing the lump in my throat. Every insult, every sneer, felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. But still, I refused to give him the satisfaction of tears. I bottled everything up, hiding behind a fragile smile that fooled no one but myself. One afternoon, after another brutal exchange, I slipped away to the quietest corner of the hallway, tears finally spilling over. My hands shook as I wiped them frantically, hoping no one had seen. But then a gentle voice broke through the silence. "Hey, it's okay." I looked up to see Sam, the janitor. An older man with kind eyes and a soft smile. He leaned against the wall beside me, nodding toward the door behind which Mr. Harlan's office lay. "People like him always get what they deserve," Sam said quietly, his voice full of quiet conviction. For the first time in weeks, someone's words felt like a small shield against the storm. Sam didn't know me, yet he saw through the fear and pain, reminding me I wasn't invisible. That moment, brief as it was, lit a fragile hope inside me. Maybe this nightmare wouldn't last forever. At night, when the world finally quieted down, I found solace in a small leather-bound journal I kept hidden beneath my bed. It became my sanctuary, a place where I could pour out the frustrations of the day, scribbling down every cruel word, every impossible task. Writing was the only way to make sense of the chaos inside me. But my journal held more than just pain. Sometimes, as I traced the ink across the pages, memories I rarely allowed myself to touch crept in, reminders of a life I had left behind. I wasn't always this timid girl from a small apartment in the city's shadow. I grew up in a sprawling mansion, surrounded by marble halls and priceless art. Private tutors taught me everything from languages to piano, and my parents, loving and attentive, showered me with affection and expectation. It was a life many dreamed of, but I never wanted it for myself. A tragedy changed everything. After that day, I made a choice, a quiet rebellion against a world that demanded I fit a certain mold. I left the gilded cage and stepped into the real world, the messy, unpredictable life of ordinary people. That's why I never told anyone my last name, Kingston, a name that carried weight, privilege, and expectations I didn't want. I wanted to earn respect on my own terms, not as some rich girl handed a golden ticket. So I became simply Emma, the soft-spoken newcomer at a firm that didn't know who I really was. Sometimes, I wondered if I was foolish to keep my past a secret. But then I remembered the look on Mr. Harlan's face the day he finally realized who I was beneath the surface. I wasn't ready to reveal that part of myself, not yet. For now, my journal was enough to hold my truth. That day started like any other, but it ended with the kind of humiliation I thought I'd only read about in stories. A major client, one Mr. Harlan had been courting for months, suddenly pulled out of negotiations. When the news spread through the office, fingers pointed in every direction, but Mr. Harlan's gaze locked onto me like I was the only one to blame. "You lost the client," he barked during the midday meeting, his voice sharp enough to cut glass. The room fell silent, as he paced in front of everyone, eyes blazing. "How incompetent can you be? You're a liability, Emma." I opened my mouth to explain, to defend myself, but before I could say a word, he raised a hand and continued, "Consider this your termination. You'll never amount to anything in this company, or anywhere else." The words landed like a blow, but strangely, I didn't crumble. I looked around at the stunned faces, some sympathetic, others relieved it wasn't them, and then back at Mr. Harlan. For the first time I found my voice. "My apologies, Mr. Harlan," I said, steady and clear. "I understand your decision, but I want you to know this one day, you may regret letting me go. Sooner than you think." The room seemed to hold its breath as I spoke. No tremble, no tears, just quiet resolve. I gathered my things calmly, feeling the weight of every stare, but I refused to look broken. I walked out with my head held high. Not defeated, not broken, graceful. As the door closed behind me, I realized that losing this job wasn't the end of my story, it was just the beginning of something else, something I wasn't ready to reveal yet. And Mr. Harlan had no idea what he had just set in motion. Just a few days after I walked out of that office, the entire company was thrown into chaos. Rumors swirled, whispers of a corporate buyout, mysterious investors moving behind closed doors. Employees buzzed with speculation, but no one knew the truth. Then, the boardroom doors swung open. In stepped a group of impeccably dressed people, their presence commanding immediate silence. At their head was me, Emma Kingston. Mr. Harlan's eyes widened, his confident smirk faltering as he scanned the room. For a moment, he didn't recognize me. I stepped forward, calm and composed, the same quiet strength I had worn during my darkest days now shining with purpose. "Good afternoon, everyone," I began, voice steady. "I'm Emma Kingston, daughter of the late Richard Kingston." A hush fell over the room, Mr. Harlan's face paled. His usual arrogance crumbled as he realized the weight of my name, a name he had mocked in silence but never dared to utter. "I'm here to announce that I am now the majority shareholder of this company, and the new chairwoman of the board." The room seemed to tilt, the walls closing in on the stunned executives. Mr. Harlan sank back into his chair, shaking, disbelief written across his face. "You see," I continued, "while I chose to live a different life, to forge my own path, my family's legacy has been quietly building behind the scenes. This company, my company, was never as far out of my reach as you all believed. Mr. Harlan struggled to find words, but none came. His eyes darted around, desperation rising as he realized his reign of fear was over. I trusted you once, I said, locking eyes with him, and you betrayed that trust with your cruelty and arrogance. But now, things will be different. With that, I took my seat at the head of the table, the room still buzzing with shock and disbelief. The power had shifted, and this time I was the one in control. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. As the murmurs settled, I turned to face the entire staff, men and women who had endured quiet fear, who had been silenced by cruelty. No one deserves to be treated the way I was, I said plainly, my voice calm but firm. Respect isn't optional, it's a right. All eyes shifted to Mr. Harlan, who sat slumped and defeated. Without hesitation, I continued, effective immediately, Mr. Harlan is relieved of all duties. He is no longer welcome here. A heavy silence fell over the room, as security escorted him out. There was no pity, no hesitation, only justice. Then, I turned my gaze toward Sam, the janitor who had quietly been my anchor through the darkest moments. He wasn't just a background figure cleaning floors, he was the one who saw my tears when no one else did, who offered gentle words when I felt completely alone. I smiled warmly, feeling a deep sense of gratitude well up inside me. Sam, I said clearly, my voice carrying through the hushed room, your dedication and integrity have never gone unnoticed. You've shown kindness and strength when this company needed it most. It is my honor to promote you to head of facility operations. For a moment, there was silence, a breath held by everyone in the room, as the weight of the announcement sank in. Then, slowly, the room erupted in quiet applause. It wasn't loud or wild, but it was sincere, a shift in energy that felt like the first light breaking through long dark clouds. This moment wasn't just about punishing those who had made this a toxic place, it was about healing. About building something new from the broken pieces left behind. It was about hope. I took a deep breath and faced the room once more, meeting the eyes of every person who had suffered in silence. Starting today, I said, we will enforce strict no harassment policies. There will be zero tolerance for cruelty or disrespect. Our leadership will have an open-door approach, you will be heard. Transparency will be our foundation, not secrecy and fear. The murmurs of approval grew louder as I continued. We are building a culture where every voice matters. Where no one has to be afraid to speak up. We are rewriting the rules here. Looking around, I saw a mixture of relief, disbelief and cautious optimism in their faces. I knew change wouldn't come overnight, but I was determined to lead the way. For me, this was never just a job, it was so much more. It was a chance to right the wrongs I had endured, to create a space where kindness wasn't mistaken for weakness, where respect was a given, not a privilege earned through fear. The past was behind us. The door to a new chapter was wide open, now it was time to move forward. Together, as I stood there, I thought about how often people confuse kindness with weakness. How easily those who choose compassion are pushed down or ignored. But kindness is never a flaw, it's a quiet strength, a power that lifts others, and builds bridges where walls once stood. I learned that lesson the hard way, through years of silence, pain, and finally finding my voice. I learned that respect should never depend on your status, your background, or how loudly you shout. It's earned through how you treat others. Now, I lead with both compassion and strength. Two sides of the same coin, qualities Mr. Harlan never understood. His power came from fear and control. Mine comes from empathy and courage. Being in charge isn't about ruling with an iron fist. It's about lifting others up, creating a space where everyone can thrive without fear. I looked around the room one last time, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. This company, these people, deserved better. And I was ready to give them exactly that. Because true strength isn't just surviving the storm, it's learning how to dance in the rain. If you're ever made to feel small, dismissed, or invisible, remember this. Your worth isn't decided by someone else's opinion, it's something only you can own, protect and cherish. And sometimes the quietest voices carry the loudest strength. If you enjoyed this story, Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder that karma always finds its way.